Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today I have a different sort of video for you. First of all, I apologize for any background noise you can hear. At the moment I'm not at my usual setup right now, and I am currently on baby duty, so if you hear any little baby noises in the background, that's why. But today I am going to be doing a tier list of all the books that I read this year in 2023. If you are interested on the channel, I have also posted my favorite and least favorite books of the year, which I did the same thing last year as well, but this year I also wanted to spice things up a little bit, and in addition to that, do a tier list, because I quite enjoy them, and I thought that you all might as well, and that way I could also talk about all of the books that I read this year and kind of reflect on everything, and tell you what I thought of them. So, if you don't know how the tier list works, basically, instead of ranking everything by number, I just put them into different tiers. So the higher tiers are the things that I think are better, and the lower tiers are the things that I think are worse. And then down here at the bottom, we have the DNF tier, which is the tier where I'm going to place books that I did not finish, because I don't think it would be really fair to rank them against everything else the normal way. So we're going to get right started. This is mostly in the order that I read the books. There's some that are out of order, but most of these are in the order that I read the books. So that's how we're going to do this. And also I apologize for the video. I'm recording this on my phone because I don't really have any other way to do this. So it might not look as good as other people who record it on like a computer or something, but this is what I've got. So first we're going to start with books 2 and 3 of The Wheel of Time, which are The Great Hunt and The Dragon Reborn, which I had pretty similar thoughts on, so they're going to go straight into the same tier. They're both going to go into B tier right here. These ones were pretty good. I wouldn't say they were amazing, which is why they're not higher. But they were pretty good. I really enjoy the world building in this series. Some of the plot stuff in these was pretty cool too. But the thing with Wheel of Time for me, first of all, is that I just don't find it completely engaging, plus the characters don't quite do it for me. There's not really any characters that I'm really into. However, I do really enjoy the world building and some of the plot stuff. So these go pretty solidly, I think, into B tier, which for me is kind of where a lot of the stuff that I like but I didn't love is kind of gonna go. Then we have the Agents of Chaos duology from the Star Wars New Jedi Order series. These ones are going to be separated because I had slightly different thoughts on them. I'm going to put the first book in the top of B tier. These are not going to be like specifically ranked, but I'll kind of put things generally where I think they should go. I would put this kind of, at the moment, top of B tier. I could be persuaded to put it kind of low A, but I think I'm going to put it in top of B. I did really enjoy the way Han Solo was done in this book. I think he was the real standout. The second book I didn't like as much. I think that one would go in C tier. That one focused a bit more on Leia, I think, and just wasn't quite as compelling to me. It was still decent, but it wasn't amazing. Then we have the Star Wars canon Thrawn trilogy, which I loved. I loved these books. They were all really good. So all of these books are right here. I would say Thrawn and Thrawn Treason would both go in A tier. Alliances I'd put in S tier. Now this is a little bit of an unpopular opinion because I see a lot of people say that the Thrawn Alliances book is the weakest of the trilogy and probably also the weakest canon Thrawn book and also probably one of the weakest Thrawn books in general, but I really loved it. It is one of my favorite canon books. I thought it was wonderful. The first book I thought was great as well. These are all on a pretty similar level for me, but the second one for me was slightly the standout, and I would say it's closer to being one of my favorites of the year. It doesn't quite hit my actual favorites, which I would say is the S plus tier right here. That's kind of where my absolute favorite books of the year are going to go, but it's very close to being there, while the other two books are also really, really good. And then we have A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. This one is going to go in D tier for me. This one just didn't really do much for me. The magic system was kind of cool, and the world building was kind of cool, but that's pretty much it. I was kind of bored reading it. Didn't really do much of anything for me. I will probably still continue the series, but yeah. The Truce at Bakura, the Star Wars novel immediately following not Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, which was kind of cool. That's gonna go in C tier. It was all right. Not really anything standout-ish about it, either good or bad. It was just okay. Didn't have really many strong feelings on it. Courtship of Princess Leia. This was my least favorite book I read this year. If I were being more objective about it and saying, like, these are the things I liked and things I didn't and kind of comparing them, this could go probably higher, maybe in C tier. But this book left such a bad taste in my mouth in retrospect. Like, the way that Han and Leia were written was just... I did not like it at all. And, so it goes at the bottom. And that is definitively my least favorite book I read this year. Going from the least favorite book to one of my top books of the year, we have Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, straight into S+ tier. Right into my favorites. This was amazing. All of the Stormlight Archive books so far that have been released have been amazing. And 3 out of the 4 I read this year, which is really cool. But yeah, I loved Words of Radiance. It was incredible. It's probably one of the lesser books in the series for me. Probably would be my 3rd or 4th favorite, which I know is a bit of an unpopular opinion as well. But it is still amazing, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. Then we have Knight Errant. This could go either in top of F or bottom of D. I don't think I'd put it on the same level as Courtship, so I'm going to put it in bottom of D. Again, kind of similar to Wizard of Earthsea. This was just boring. The villains were kind of interesting, but that's literally it. I did not find it interesting or memorable, really, at all. Children of the Jedi. This is the Callisto trilogy now, so I'm gonna kind of go through these. Children of the Jedi would also go D tier. Not the worst, but not really all that good either. Did not like the writing style, did not like a lot of things about this book. There's not really anything that I disliked, per se, aside from the writing style, but I just didn't find anything that I really liked. It was just kind of boring and wasn't really into it. And then I'm going to put the 3rd book, also, Planet of Twilight, right there, but above both of these, I would say. Basically, just because I really liked C-3PO in that book, and that's the only thing that really puts it ahead. But the 2nd book, which was actually written by a different author, those both were written by Barbara Hambly, this was written by Kevin J. Anderson, this is going into A tier. I would say below the Thrawn books. I really liked Darksaber. As someone who has a big soft spot for the Jedi Academy trilogy, I'll admit that probably has something to do with it, because this book ties heavily into that. But I thought it was such a fun book, and even though the Callisto trilogy as a whole is extremely mixed for me, this was definitely a standout. Then we have Star Wars Myths and Fables, which is a very unique book, kind of a collection of short stories. This would go bottom of B tier. It's not one that I find very memorable, and the stories, there weren't really any that really stood out to me. They were all of pretty similar quality of being just good. But it was still a solid read, and I enjoyed it, so it goes into B tier. Then we have a bunch more Sanderson right here. We got Tress of the Emerald Sea, which is the first of the secret projects, the only one that I read, and I really liked it. That goes into S tier as well. Probably above Alliances, I would say, if I can move those around. This was, like, if there's any book this year that I read where I just if I could describe any book this year as just fun and enjoy, like, just pure fun, like, nothing else about it, like, it was just so much fun to read, and I had such a wonderful time reading it. Tress is that is what Tress is to me. It was just so much fun, and I just loved my time with it so much. It was the only secret project I read this year, unfortunately. I hope to read the other ones next year, at least the other 2 Cosmere ones. Might read Frugal Wizard at some point too. But yeah, it was delightful. I loved it. It was so much fun. Then we have the first 3 books of Mistborn Era 2, which is really cool. Alloy of Law is a really good book that just isn't quite on the same level as the others for me. But I'd put it in B tier. That's pretty much the lowest that I would rate any Sanderson book at this point, honestly. But Alloy of Law was really good. I really enjoyed it, but it is not as good as the other 2 in my opinion. But it was good. It was a good intro to the series. Then we have Shadows of Self going straight to S tier. I really liked this one a lot. It is arguably my favorite Mistborn book. I am planning to do a reread of the first trilogy next year, so we'll see how it stacks up against them then, but I really did love Shadows of Self a whole lot. Lots of moments in it that stand right out to me even now. Then we have Bands of Mourning. This would, I'm pretty comfortable. I'll put it ahead of Darksaber. This one was really good. Actually, I'll put Shadows of Self in the top of S tier as well. Bands of Mourning was really good. I think the last act of the book was excellent. Great stuff with Wax and Steris. I really enjoyed their relationship in this book. And it was really solid overall. I really liked it. As I do with most of Sanderson, or all of Sanderson, really, as far as the novels. Then we have the High Republic Convergence. This is going into C tier. I would say I'd probably put it ahead of these books, I think. I think this was a decent book that I just didn't find memorable. Looking back on it, I remember almost nothing about it. It just kind of came and went. It was okay, but it was definitely one of the lesser High Republic books for me so far. Next we have Rogue Planet, which is one that I've not heard much about, so I didn't go in with super high expectations. But it was really quite good. I think I'd put it right there in the middle of B. Great stuff with Obi-Wan and Anakin in between episodes 1 and 2, and I really enjoyed it. It was really cool. Then we've got Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray. Claudia Gray always delivers a great book. I would put this somewhere in S tier. It's hard for me to say in comparison to these other ones. I'd say I put it right about there. It was really good. Great job with Leia, great politics, all that kind of stuff. It was really good. And then we have the first 2 Death books by Terry Pratchett in his Discworld series. These ones are not in order. I read Mort around this time, but Reaper Man was a bit later, but I didn't get around to fixing it. So, yeah. First, we have Mort. This one was really good, but I think it was definitely overshadowed by the second book. So I'm going to put this top of B tier, and then I'm going to put the second book. I'm going to put it in the bottom of S tier, I would say. I'll move Mort up a little bit. I'll put Mort there, I suppose. These were both really good, but Reaper Man definitely was my favorite of the 2. Reaper Man was the first of Discworld book. I've only read 3 of them. I've read one addition to these. But it was the first one that really hit me kind of on a deeper, more emotional level. And I loved it. I love these books, the Discworld books I've read. I can't wait to read more of them. They're so much fun. Then we've got Balance Point, the next few New Jedi Order books here. Balance Point also is a C tier. Don't know really where it would go, so I'll just leave it there. I really enjoyed it, I think, when I first read it, but as time has gone on, I just find it not that memorable. I don't really remember it that much. But I do remember enjoying it, so, it was solid. Then we have the Edge of Victory duology, which is arguably my favorite set of books in New Jedi Order. Maybe. It's hard to say. The recent New Jedi Order books I've read a lot of them have been stellar. The first one I would put there. It was really good. Definitely one of my favorite New Jedi Order books so far. It was excellent. Second book was not quite as great in my opinion, but it was still really solid. I'd say I'd put it probably around there somewhere. It was really good, but not quite as good in my opinion. But the first book was amazing, and I loved it. Next, we have Shadow Rising, first book in the DNF tier. I did not finish the Shadow Rising, unfortunately. I got around halfway through. I think I got around 60% of the way through. I will continue Wheel of Time sometime. I will get back into it, but I think I just need a break. I wasn't quite feeling it. Then we have Indiana Jones and the Army of the Dead, which is really cool, really fun. If I were going on pure enjoyment level, when I read it, it would be an A tier, but I think I'm going to put it in B tier. I'm going to put it in top of B tier. Just because it wasn't quite as, it didn't hit me quite the same way as some of these books in A tier, but it was a lot of fun, and I did enjoy it a lot. We have Shatterpoint, which is one of the best Star Wars Legends books I've read for sure. This is gonna go in S tier. I'm gonna put it bottom of S tier. It probably deserves to be a little higher than that, but it's up against such amazing books that it's hard to really place these books. But I did love Shatterpoint a lot. It was really fantastic. Shadow of the Gods also straight to S tier. Somewhere. I'm gonna put it in middle of S tier, I think, or middle to top of S tier. I guess. I really liked Shadow of the Gods. It was so much fun. It was really interesting. I loved the Nordic aspects to the world building. Great characters, all that stuff. Dante's Inferno, also DNF tier. I'm really interested in Inferno. And I did enjoy some of it, but just the writing style, obviously it was written hundreds of years ago, so it was just hard for me to read. If I could get like a modern version of Inferno, I bet I would love it. Then we have the 3 Bionicle books that I read this year. I didn't really talk about these on the channel, but I did read the first 3. The first one, really the first 2, I would put bottom of B tier just because they weren't super memorable, but they were still good. Yeah, they weren't amazing, but I think they were pretty good. Then the third one would probably go in bottom of C tier. Definitely the weakest one, but still, pretty decent. Arcanum Unbounded. This is the first of a couple short story collections I have here. This is gonna go... Whoa, whoops, I messed that up. This is gonna go into A tier somewhere, maybe. I am just messing with this a lot, aren't I? I'm gonna put it kind of around Bands of Mourning. It had a few short stories I wasn't really into, but I loved the novellas, and I loved a few of the short stories as well. It was a really solid collection. Randolph Carter Tales by Lovecraft, my last Lovecraft book that I needed to read. Definitely S tier. I'm gonna put it around there. This is my favorite Lovecraft short story that I've read so far, I think. I loved 3 of the short stories out of the 5, but the 2 that I didn't quite love were really short, so it was like a really small amount of the collection that I just wasn't quite into, but I loved the kind of Randolph Carter trilogy, even though it's not officially a trilogy. It's kind of like that, and I really loved it. We have Yoda Dark Rendezvous, a criminally underrated Star Wars book. This is gonna go also bottom of S tier, right next to Shatterpoint. Amazing book. I loved it. It's criminally underrated. Like, if you haven't read it, go read it. It's really good. Star by Star. We're really filling up the S tiers, apparently, right here. This is going into S+, actually. This was my favorite New Jedi Order book until recently. And still arguably could be, but it's hard to say. But I love Star by Star. It was excellent. I really, really loved it. Bloodline. Goodness. Seeing some of the books coming up soon, the last half of this year was amazing for me. Holy cow. Bloodline, also straight to S tier. Or S plus tier, yeah. This is maybe my favorite Star Wars canon book. It was incredible. Basically, like, everything Leia, Princess of Alderaan did, make that slightly better, and you have Bloodline. Like, the great politics, great job with Leia, all that stuff. Oathbringer. Straight to S plus tier. Top of S plus tier, in fact. This may be my favorite book that I read this year. It was really incredible. I loved it. It is my favorite Sanderson book so far. Yeah, I cannot praise it enough. It was incredible. First two Percy Jackson books. These are gonna go top of B tier, I would say. I would say below Indiana Jones, maybe. Or around the same level. Both really good. I really enjoyed both of them. Not quite on the level of being like a favorite or anything, but they were really good, and I enjoyed them a lot. Oh, lots of great stuff coming up. We have the Han Solo trilogy, which is out of order. Oh no. Alright, so Paradise Snare, the first book, is going into S tier, of course. I would put it bottom of S tier, kind of. I would say it was really, really good. Second book was my favorite of the three, so that is gonna go a bit higher in S tier. I would put it, I'd put it right about there, I think. I really loved the second book. It was excellent. Third book was my least favorite of the three, I would say. But it was still really good. I'm going to put that top of A tier around the same place as the Thrawn books. Really, really excellent trilogy. Definitely one of the best Star Wars trilogies I've read. Gardens of the Moon, Malazan, Book of the Fallen, Book 1. I'm really excited to read more of these. I hope to read more of them in the new year. This one, I'm going to put top of a B tier. I would say very nearly an A tier, but it was a little bit too confusing for me to put it in A tier. But I did really love Gardens of the Moon. It was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. I mean, I expected it to probably be a good book, but I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected for how much I expected to be confused. And I was confused, but it was still really enjoyable regardless, which I think is a testament to how good it actually was. Then we have Dark Journey. This was okay, breaking the streak of greatness that we've had so far. This is going to go, I think, in C tier. I'm going to put this in the top of C tier if I can get it to work properly. Yeah, it was good. It wasn't amazing. Don't remember it that much, even though it was fairly recent. But it was okay. Then we have Spider-Man Hostile Takeover. This is going into A tier somewhere. I'm gonna put it right there, top of A tier. Better than I expected it to be, considering it was like a superhero video game tie-in book. I just felt like it might come across as kind of like just them trying to cash in on both the brand of Spider-Man and the video game it's based on. But it was actually a really entertaining book, and I really enjoyed it. The Ballad of Black Tom. Now, this one hurt me a little because I made my review for it and it did not do amazingly. It didn't get many views, but this was one of my absolute favorite books I read this year. This is a novella. It's like 150 pages, but it packed such a big punch, and I loved it so much. It's a retelling of one of Lovecraft's worst stories, and it is up there with like the best of Lovecraft. Like it was amazing. I loved it. Then we have The Mask of Silver. This is gonna go in the top of C tier. I enjoyed a lot of this book. I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed the mysteries. The characters were cool. Nice cast of characters. But the ending just did not do it for me. It really kind of soured the book a little for me. But the rest of the book was pretty solid. It was good. Then I Am Not a Serial Killer by Dan Wells. A book you probably don't want to read in public. I think you'd get some funny looks. This S tier is full. Wow. This is going into S tier, obviously. Gonna put it there, I think. This was excellent. I loved it. It was so good. I cannot recommend it enough. It was amazing. Then we have Lost Tribe of the Sith. A pretty okay book, collection of short stories and novellas. Gonna put this in C tier also. Somewhere around here. It was good. The early stories didn't quite do it for me. The later ones got better. But it was just okay for me. Salem's Lot by Stephen King, filling up more of the higher tiers. This I'm gonna put bottom of S tier. I'd say around here somewhere. Really excellent. Definitely, this is my first Stephen King book, and I am definitely gonna check out more because I really enjoyed Salem's Lot. It was excellent. I can't really say anything that hasn't been said already, because a lot of people love that book. Then we have Sword of Shannara, my third and final DNF of the year. Just wasn't quite feeling it. It was good, but I wasn't quite feeling it. Probably we'll revisit it sometime. Then we have 3 more New Jedi Order books, finally getting towards the end of this list. I'm quite tired at the moment. It's late, so I'm trying to get through this pretty quickly. We have Rebel Dream and Rebel Stand. These were both really good. I would put them in A tier. I would say around the mid upper A tier kind of thing, maybe. Both really good. I really enjoyed both of them. Yeah, that's all I got to say about them, really. Traitor, straight up there to favorites of the year for sure. I'm gonna put it right there. This was amazing. I loved it. It was probably my favorite New Jedi Order book so far. Cannot sing its praises enough. I loved it. It was amazing. We got some Sanderson to end the tier list here. Of course, we got Dawn Shard, which was really good. I don't know that I would put it against his novels because it is shorter, but it was really good, so I'm going to put it in the top of A tier. And then we have Rhythm of War, which is the last novel that I finished this year, at least in terms of books that aren't rereads, because I'm actually doing Lord of the Rings as well to end the year. But that's a reread, so I don't include it. Rhythm of War was excellent, of course. Maybe my least favorite Stormlight book so far, but it was still really good. I'm going to put it top of S tier. Not quite on the same level as all these other ones as my favorites, but it was still really excellent. And I loved it. Then we have Way of Kings Prime, which is not a DNF. I want to stress that because it's one that I have not finished, but I am continuing it. I am not DNFing it. So I don't know where to put it. I'm going to put it in DNF tier just because I haven't finished it yet. But it was really good. From what I've read of it so far, I'm around halfway, a little under that, I think. And it's good so far. It's interesting to see this alternate version of The Way of Kings. I don't know when I'm going to finish it. I might be able to finish it. I'm recording this a bit ahead of time. So I might be able to finish this by the end of December. I might It might go into early 2024. Most likely will go into early 2024. I've been working on this since like October. But definitely good and interesting, and I'm enjoying it. So yeah, that is our tier list. All right, so here is the final tier list. Not the highest quality, unfortunately, but yeah, complete. Lots of good stuff this year that I really enjoyed. This was a really good year for me, I think, in terms of the books I read. Lots of stuff very high up there that was really excellent. And not a whole lot down in those bottom tiers, which is nice. So that is pretty much it for this video. I apologize for the weird format and things like that, but I'm just kind of trying to work with what I have. And so, yeah, so sorry about that, but I hope that you still enjoyed this video regardless. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this list, if you agree or disagree with any of my placements, if you've read any of these, what you thought of them, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that pretty much wraps up this video, so thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time.